The quiet before the storm. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with energy as holographic displays showed star maps across the galaxy. Commander Thex-9 stood before the assembled Zephyrian High Command, his crystalline form reflecting the blue light of countless data streams. For over 2 centuries, the Zephyrian Empire had expanded across the stars, conquering world after world with methodical precision. Their technology was unmatched, their military undefeated, and their confidence absolute. "The next target has been selected," Thex-9 announced, his voice resonating through the chamber like musical chimes. A small blue world in the outer rim, inhabited by a species calling themselves humans. The holographic display shifted to show Earth rotating slowly in the center of the room. Cities glowed like tiny sparks across the planet's surface, and primitive spacecraft moved between nearby celestial bodies. Overlord Vex Prime, the supreme commander of the Zephyrian fleet, examined the data with mild interest. His ancient form had witnessed the fall of dozens of civilizations, each one believing they were special until they met the overwhelming might of the Empire. "What is their technological level?" he inquired, though his tone suggested he already considered the answer irrelevant. "Primitive," Thex-9 replied without hesitation. "They have barely begun to explore their own star system. Their weapons are chemical-based, their energy sources are inefficient, and their military forces are fragmented across multiple nations. Our preliminary scans indicate they possess no unified planetary defense system." The commander's analysis was thorough and dismissive. Standard conquest protocol should suffice. Demonstrate power, demand submission, occupy key territories. The council members exchanged what passed for amused glances among their species. Another backward world to add to their collection. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, wait for the inevitable surrender, then integrate the conquered species into the empire as laborers or servants. Some species fought briefly, but none had ever posed a real challenge to Zephyrian superiority. "How many ships will be required?" asked Sub-Commander Keck-7, already calculating resource allocation in her crystalline mind. "A standard subjugation fleet," Thex-9 responded. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 dreadnoughts, and support vessels, more than sufficient for a world of this limited capability. He paused the hologram on an image of human cities. Their population centers are concentrated and unshielded. A few demonstrations of our power should be enough to ensure compliance. What the Zephyrians didn't understand, what their advanced sensors and sophisticated analysis couldn't detect, was the true nature of humanity. They saw the surface, the conflicts, the divisions, the seemingly primitive technology. They observed human wars and concluded that the species was inherently weak, unable to unite even against threats within their own kind. Their analysis was logical, thorough, and completely wrong. On Earth, life continued with its usual rhythm. People went to work, children attended school, families gathered for meals. The night sky looked the same as it always had, stars twinkling peacefully in the darkness. Nobody knew that in the depths of space, an armada was preparing to change everything. The first sign came not as ships in the sky, but as a message that interrupted every communication device on the planet simultaneously. "People of Earth." The voice was mechanical, translated through advanced systems into every human language. "I am Commander Thex-9 of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You have 2 of your hours to surrender unconditionally. Comply, and your species will be preserved as productive members of our empire. Resist and face consequences beyond your comprehension." The message lasted exactly 90 seconds and then ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. In those first moments, the world held its breath. Then the chaos began. News networks scrambled to analyze the transmission. Governments convened emergency sessions. Scientists worked frantically to determine if this was some elaborate hoax or the real thing. Deep space monitoring stations confirmed what everyone feared. Massive objects were moving toward Earth's solar system, too large and too fast to be natural phenomena. General Sarah Chen, the newly appointed head of Earth's hastily formed Planetary Defense Coordination, stood in the Situation Room beneath the Pentagon. Around her, screens displayed data from observatories and satellites worldwide. The objects were definitely artificial, definitely headed toward Earth, and definitely beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. "How long do we have?" she asked the assembled scientists and military leaders. Dr. Marcus Webb, a physicist who had spent his career studying theoretical alien contact scenarios, looked up from his calculations. "At current approach speed, they'll reach Earth orbit in 68 hours. But General, based on the size of these objects..." He paused, struggling with the implications. "Each ship is larger than our biggest cities. The energy reading suggests technology centuries ahead of ours." The room fell silent as the reality sank in. This wasn't science fiction anymore. Humanity was about to face its first real test as a species, and the odds seemed impossible. But General Chen had not reached her position by accepting impossible odds. "What are our options?" she asked simply. "Surrender," whispered someone in the back of the room. A few people nodded, the logic seeming overwhelming. How could Earth's fragmented military forces stand against an interstellar empire? "No." The voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. General Chen turned to face the room. "Surrender is not an option. Not without trying. Not without showing them who we are." She moved to the center of the room, addressing not just those present, but knowing her words would soon reach leaders worldwide. "For the first time in human history, we face a threat that doesn't care about our borders, our politics, or our differences. This enemy sees us as one species, one world, one target. Maybe it's time we saw ourselves the same way." Within hours, an unprecedented response was taking shape. The United Nations Security Council voted unanimously for the first time in its history. NATO, BRICS, ASEAN, and every other international organization put aside decades of rivalry to focus on a single goal: planetary defense. Military commanders who had spent careers preparing to fight each other now worked together, sharing intelligence, coordinating resources, and planning strategies against an enemy beyond any earthly experience. The response was not just governmental. Around the world, ordinary people began to act in extraordinary ways. Engineers worked around the clock to adapt civilian infrastructure for military use. Scientists shared research across borders without concern for patents or national secrets. Factories retooled to produce weapons and equipment. Programmers collaborated on defensive systems. Farmers increased food production to sustain a world at war. Captain Rita Kowalski, a veteran pilot with the U.S. Air Force, found herself leading an international squadron of the world's best pilots. Russians, Chinese, Indians, Israelis, Germans, Brazilians, former enemies now training together for a battle none of them expected to survive. "We can't match their technology," she told her pilots during their final briefing, "but we can show them what humans do when cornered. We fight, we adapt, we never give up." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Commander Thex 9 observed Earth's response with growing puzzlement. Instead of the expected panic and surrender, the planet was showing signs of unprecedented unity and activity. Communication traffic had increased 1,000-fold. Military units were repositioning globally. Industrial production was shifting toward war materials. "Curious," he mused to his tactical officer, "they appear to be preparing for resistance." "Should we accelerate our approach?" the officer asked. "End their preparations before they can complete them?" Thex 9 considered this. In his experience, allowing primitive species to prepare only made the eventual demonstration of power more impressive. Their futile efforts would make their surrender more complete, their integration into the empire more docile. "No," he decided. "Let them prepare, let them hope. Their ultimate defeat will be more instructive." As the final hours ticked away, humanity made its choice. There would be no surrender, no negotiation, no compromise. Earth's leaders had crafted their response, a message that would soon echo across the galaxy and define humanity's place among the stars. The message was simple, direct, and carried the voice of every human being who had ever faced impossible odds and refused to yield. Dr. Webb stood at the communications array, preparing to broadcast humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. Behind him, General Chen and representatives from every nation on Earth waited in solemn determination. The message would be broadcast on all frequencies, translated into mathematical concepts that any technological civilization would understand, backed by the full authority of a unified world. Commander Thex 9 of the Zephyrian Empire, Dr. Webb began, his voice carrying the weight of human history. We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your terms. We have made our decision. He paused, feeling the gravity of the moment. We are the people of Earth. We bow to no one. This world is ours, earned through millions of years of evolution, thousands of years of civilization, and countless generations of struggle. You may be stronger than us. You may be more advanced than us. But you will learn what every tyrant in human history has learned. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. And we will not go quietly into the night. The transmission ended, and Earth waited. In 68 hours they would discover what their defiance would cost. But they had made their choice. Humanity would stand united, and whatever came next, they would face it together. In the cold depths of space, Commander Thex 9 listened to the transmission with what might have been admiration if his species were capable of such emotion. Interesting, he said quietly. They choose extinction over submission. How primitive. Prepare the fleet for demonstration protocols. These humans will learn the cost of defying the Empire. But as the Zephyrian ships drew closer to Earth, something unexpected was happening. The aliens had studied human technology, human society, and human history. They had analyzed strengths and weaknesses, military capabilities, and industrial capacity. What they hadn't studied, what they couldn't understand, was the human spirit, and that would prove to be their greatest mistake. The awakening of the sleeping giant. The first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning, emerging from hyperspace, like metallic mountains materializing from thin air. Commander Thex 9 had chosen the timing deliberately, during peak activity hours when the maximum number of humans would witness their arrival. The psychological impact, he calculated, would be devastating. 12 massive cruisers took position over Earth's largest population centers, while 4 colossal dreadnoughts remained in high orbit, their presence casting literal and figurative shadows across the planet. The ships were magnificent and terrifying. Each cruiser stretched for miles, their crystalline hulls reflecting sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. They moved with impossible silence, defying every law of physics that humans understood. No exhaust, no sound, no visible means of propulsion. Just massive alien vessels hanging in the sky, like sword points aimed at the heart of civilization. General Sarah Chen watched from the command center as reports flooded in from around the globe. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, Delhi. Every major city now lived under alien shadows. "Status report," she requested, though her voice remained steady despite the impossibility of their situation. "No hostile action yet," reported the communications officer. "They're just waiting. But General, the energy readings from those ships..." He struggled to find words for what the sensors were detecting. Each one could level a continent. The power sources are beyond our understanding. Overlord Vex Prime, aboard the flagship Dreadnought, observed Earth below with calculated patience. In his centuries of conquest, he had learned that the initial display of power was crucial. Allow the enemy to comprehend their helplessness. Let fear do most of the work, then demonstrate force only as necessary. "Begin demonstration protocol," he commanded. "Target, uninhabited landmass. Maximum visible impact." The beam that lanced down from the flagship was pure energy, white-hot and perfectly controlled. It struck an empty desert in Australia with the force of a nuclear weapon, but with surgical precision. Sand turned to glass, creating a perfect crater 10 miles wide and visible from orbit. The message was clear. This is what we can do to empty land. Imagine what we can do to your cities. Around the world, humanity watched in stunned silence as news footage showed the aftermath. The crater was perfect, symmetrical, and absolutely devastating. No radiation, no fallout, just raw power that had transformed landscape in seconds. Many world leaders felt their resolve wavering as the reality of their situation became undeniable. But General Chen was not most leaders. She had studied every military conflict in human history, from ancient tribal warfare to modern asymmetric combat. She understood something that the aliens, in their technological superiority, could not. Wars were not won by the strongest weapons, but by the strongest will. All units, she broadcast on secure channels worldwide, commence Operation Sleeping Giant. It's time to show our visitors what humanity does best. Captain Rita Kowalski received the order while flying patrol over the North Atlantic. Around her, pilots from 19 different nations maintained formation. Russian MiGs flying alongside American F-22s, Indian Tejas fighters coordinating with Israeli F-35s, Brazilian Gripens matching speed with Chinese J-20s. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing technology that shouldn't exist. They were also completely, utterly determined. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader, Rita broadcast to her international unit. Remember, we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We're trying to teach these bastards a lesson about underestimating humans. Stay low, stay fast, and make every shot count. The first wave of human resistance came not from the sky, but from beneath the waves. Nuclear submarines from 12 different navies had coordinated in ways that would have been impossible before the crisis. They rose simultaneously in oceans around the globe, launching everything they had at the alien cruisers. Hundreds of missiles streaked skyward, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and weapons that had been state secrets until humanity's survival demanded their use. The aliens intercepted most of the missiles with energy defenses that turned warheads into harmless light shows. But humans had learned something crucial during their hasty preparation. The alien ships had to lower their shields to fire their own weapons, and in those microsecond windows, human weapons could get through. Commander Thex-9 felt his ship shudder as 3 nuclear warheads detonated against his vessel's hull during a brief shield fluctuation. The damage was minimal. His ship could withstand far worse, but the fact that damage had occurred at all was unprecedented. "Analysis," he demanded sharply. "They're coordinating their attacks to exploit our firing cycles," his tactical officer reported. "With something approaching concern. They've identified the pattern of our defensive systems, and they're adapting to it. This is unexpected behavior for a primitive species." What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength had never been individual power, but collective intelligence. Every battle, every engagement was being analyzed by thousands of human scientists and strategists worldwide. Data flowed instantly between command centers on every continent. When one pilot discovered that alien weapons had a brief charging sequence, that information reached every fighter jet on Earth within minutes. When a submarine captain noticed that alien shields fluctuated during energy discharges, every naval commander knew it before the battle was over. Dr. Marcus Webb worked frantically in the Scientific Command Center, coordinating what he called real-time evolutionary warfare. Human forces adapted not over generations, but over minutes. "The alien technology follows patterns," he reported to General Chen. "They're incredibly advanced, but they rely on programmed responses. They're not improvising. We are." The second wave of human attack came from an unexpected direction. Below, mining explosives, carefully placed in subway tunnels and sewage systems beneath major cities, detonated simultaneously under the hovering alien cruisers. The explosions were tiny compared to the ship's massive size, but they created something the aliens hadn't anticipated. Debris clouds filled with metal fragments, concrete dust, and electromagnetic chaff. For crucial minutes, alien sensors were confused, their targeting systems disrupted. In those minutes, human fighter jets swarmed like angry hornets around the massive vessels. They couldn't seriously damage ships the size of cities, but they could be annoyances, distractions, and most importantly, they could learn. Captain Rita's squadron discovered that the alien ships had small maintenance ports that opened periodically, probably automated systems the crew couldn't easily override. All units, target the small openings along the hull sections, hit them when they're open, get out before they close. Her pilots responded with the precision of a surgical team, diving through defensive fire to plant explosives in maintenance shafts, damage sensor arrays, and generally make the aliens' lives miserable. Overlord Vex Prime watched the battle unfold with growing bewilderment. These humans fought like no species he had ever encountered. They didn't rely on superior technology or overwhelming force. They observed, adapted, and innovated in real time. Their attacks were coordinated across impossible distances. Their tactics evolved during battle, and they seemed to learn from every engagement. "Sir," his communications officer reported urgently, "we're receiving thousands of different signals from the planet's surface. They appear to be sharing tactical data instantaneously across their entire military force." "Impossible," Vex Prime replied. "Their communication systems are primitive electromagnetic radiation. The delays alone should prevent real-time coordination." "Yes, sir, but they've jury-rigged their entire planetary network into a single military communication system. They're using everything: military satellites, civilian internet, television broadcasts, even amateur radio. The entire planet is functioning as one coordinated military unit." For the first time in his long career, Overlord Vex Prime felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. He was facing an enemy that broke every rule of warfare he understood. They were individually weak but collectively strong, technologically primitive but tactically sophisticated, outnumbered and outgunned but absolutely refusing to surrender. "Escalate to punishment phase," he ordered finally. "Destroy one of their cities. Make them understand the cost of resistance." The targeting beam focused on London, the alien weapon charging with visible energy. 8 million people looked up at death descending from the sky. But they didn't panic. They didn't flee. Emergency services continued working. Citizens helped neighbors reach shelters, and in the crucial seconds before firing, something extraordinary happened. Every piece of reflective metal in London, every car mirror, every window, every satellite dish, had been precisely angled by human hands working in coordination. When the alien weapon fired, the beam struck not the city, but a massive improvised mirror array that scattered the energy across the Thames estuary. The river exploded into steam, but London survived. Commander Thex 9 stared at his readings in complete disbelief. They turned their entire city into a deflection array. How is this possible? The answer came from Dr. Webb's frantic calculations in the command center. "They're not just fighting us with weapons," he realized aloud. "They're fighting us with everything. Every human on the planet has become part of their military response. They're weaponizing their entire civilization." The battle continued for 18 hours. Human forces took devastating losses. Thousands of pilots, sailors, and soldiers died fighting impossible odds. But something remarkable happened with each passing hour. The humans got better at fighting aliens, while the aliens got no better at fighting humans. Human tactics evolved, human weapons adapted, human strategies became more sophisticated. The aliens remained exactly as advanced as they had always been, but humans became more dangerous with every engagement. The turning point came when a group of human hackers, working with captured alien technology from crashed drones, managed to inject a virus into one of the alien ship's communication systems. It wasn't sophisticated. Human computer science was centuries behind Zephyrian technology, but it was creative, unpredictable, and designed by minds that thought in ways no alien could anticipate. The virus didn't destroy anything. Instead, it made the ship's communication system broadcast human music, specifically heavy metal rock music, at maximum volume on all alien frequencies. The psychological effect on the crystalline Zephyrian consciousness was devastating. Their ordered mathematical minds recoiled from the chaotic emotional sounds. More importantly, it demonstrated that humans could reach into alien systems and touch them. "Sir," Commander Thex-9's officer reported with what sounded like fear, "they've infiltrated our communication networks. They're inside our systems." Overlord Vex Prime realized the truth in that moment. They weren't fighting a primitive species. They were fighting something far more dangerous, a young species with nothing to lose and everything to prove. These humans didn't follow the rules because they were still writing them. They didn't respect superior technology because they were too young to know they should be afraid. "Withdraw to safe distance," he ordered quietly. "Prepare for extended orbital siege." But as the alien ships pulled back, something unprecedented happened. Instead of celebrating survival, humans began preparing for the next phase. They had learned to fight spaceships with jets and submarines. Now they began building weapons specifically designed to fight aliens. Factories worldwide retooled overnight. Scientists shared research without regard for national secrets. Engineers worked around the clock designing new technology. Super General Chen looked at the reports flooding in from around the globe. Humanity had survived first contact with a technologically superior alien species. More than survived. They had fought back, adapted, and proven that strength came not from advanced weapons, but from an unbreakable will to remain free. "Status report," she requested. "Alien fleet has withdrawn to lunar orbit," came the reply. "Casualties, significant but sustainable. Morale, impossibly, it's actually higher than before the battle. And General..." The officer paused, struggling with disbelief. "Industrial production has increased 40% since yesterday. The entire planet is mobilizing for extended conflict." Commander Thex-9, monitoring human communications from a safe distance, reported to his superior with something resembling respect. "Overlord, I believe we have underestimated this species. They do not fight like any enemy we have encountered. They fight like..." He paused, searching for words to describe something unique in his experience. "They fight like they belong here, like this world is truly theirs and they will die before giving it up." Overlord Vex Prime considered the tactical situation. His fleet remained superior in raw power, but these humans had demonstrated capabilities that defied analysis. They learned faster than should be possible, adapted in ways that seemed almost supernatural, and most dangerously, they appeared to grow stronger under pressure rather than weaker. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time to learn why this species should never be provoked. Open communication channels. We will negotiate." For the first time in Zephyrian history, the Empire would treat with a species as equals rather than subjects. Humanity had earned something that no other world had ever achieved: the aliens' respect. The war was not over, but humanity had proven that they belonged among the stars, not as servants, but as equals who would fight for their place in the galaxy.